I'd like to call the Iberia Parish Council April 12, 2017 meeting to order. The time is 6 p.m. You can all stand for prayer and pledge. Mr. Michael Andrew, lead us in prayer.
In the name of the Father, Son, Holy Ghost, God of all creation, we come here today to give you honor and praise. You are the source of all that is good. You are the source of all of our blessing. Thank you for every gift that we have been given. We thank you for the opportunity to come and gather this day. We ask for your hand of blessing on this meeting. We ask that you will guide and direct our meeting so it's full of responsibility, wisdom, productivity, and respect for one another. We thank you in advance for helping us accomplish all our work and all our goals for this day. In Jesus' name we pray.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
roll call.
Tommy Collins.
Here.
Michael Landry.
Present.
Tommy Landry.
Here.
Lloyd Brown.
Here.
Warren Dodson.
Here.
Natalie Broussard.
Here.
Paul Landry.
Here.
Ricky Gonsalas.
Here.
Joe Dugas.
Here.
Eugene Olivier.
Here.
Brian Napier.
Here.
Berwick Francis. Marty Trahan.
Here.
Chad Montclair.
Here.
We have a quorum. I need a motion to go into public hearing.
Move.
Moved by Mr. Brown, second by Mr. Trahan. Roll call. That motion carries. Let the record reflect that Mr. Francis is present. There were no requests from the general public to speak on non-agenda items. So we'll go to request to speak on agenda items. First up will be Miss Emily Ronson Kaiser. Remind everybody we have a 3-minute time limit. We appreciate you keeping it down to 3 minutes.
My name is Emily Wilson Kaiser, and I live at 3410 Urban Wilson Road, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you this evening in reference to Safe Haven Mobile Home Park, because a discussion will be held in an executive session tonight in reference to the lawsuit against the Iberia Parish Council. Now, I don't know exactly what the discussion is about, but from Mr. Sester told Mr. Franchise that a settlement was in the works, so my assumption is that you're going to discuss giving him some kind of approval so he would drop the lawsuit. If my assumption is incorrect, then I apologize. But I would like to iterate that Mr. Poche was unanimously denied twice by the Planning and Zoning, and he was denied twice by this council. There are legitimate reasons why he was denied preliminary approval. One of those reasons was our infrastructure, which I spoke on many occasions, and I provided photos to the council of the flooding of the properties. Mr. Wayne LaBiche, Mr. Poche, and the project manager, Mr. Darrell Morris, stood up here and they all stated that they had no drainage or flooding problems on their property. But Mr. Darrell Morris also stated that he did the drainage study and even quoted the stats on how the property drained. But yet, when Mr. Poche took Mr. Dotrell to court for the ability to clean the drainage servitude ditch, Mr. Darrell testified under oath that the water on the property has to build up to 6 inches in depth before the property even starts to drain. Now, we all know that even if you dug out the silt in the ditch on the drainage servitude, it's not going to help the drainage of the property because the bayous are full, they're overgrown with trees, and none of the ditches drain, even the big ditch in the front of along the frontage road. I showed you the photos of the flooding in the neighborhood from the rain event for April 30th. And then there was another rain event, August 12th, and I do have photos of Mr. Poche's property totally flooded, looks like a lake. In fact, the people that live on the property presently had to move the car to higher ground so their vehicle wouldn't flood. Now, some members of the council last year felt that Mr. Poche should be exempted from the new regulations because he was vested, because he had already spent money on this project. Well, what you didn't consider was my family and our neighbors have lived in this area 50 to 60 plus years. We've worked all our lives, built our homes, raised our children, paid our property taxes. I worked as a nurse for 45 years in this parish. My husband's a disabled veteran with 22 years of full-time military. Are we vested? Is that considered vested? If the discussion tonight is giving him preliminary approval so that the lawsuit will be dropped, how are you going to sacrifice my family and our neighborhood and subsequently risk the flooding of our homes and property and allow him to put 56 trailers that will add 17,500 gallons of water per day in an infrastructure that's already strained? That's one of the main reasons. I can only hope and pray that you would take this into consideration during your discussion tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kaiser. Next, we have Marty Domingue.
Good evening. A couple of weeks, well, about 3 weeks ago, I was appointed to the Acadiana Fairgrounds Commission. That spot was just to fill a vacancy that comes up for renewal, I believe in June or July. So tonight I'm just here to express to the council again that I am interested in holding that position and to keep me in consideration when it comes up again. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Mr. Barry Barrett.
Good evening. I'm here to address the resolution, Summary 62 tonight. Madam Chairman, members of the council, my name is Barry Verrett, and I'm here seeking the appointment to the hospital board at Iberia Medical Center. It was an honor and a privilege to serve on this council here for 20 years, representing District 8. So I know the difficult decisions that you have to make each and every night. I have over 30 years experience working in a hospital with 22 years in management. I was a director of radiology at Dotrieve Hospital. I was in charge of the regular x-ray department, the MRI, the nuclear med, the CT, the mammo, the ultrasound. We did special procedures and even did the cath lab for a couple of years. So I'm very aware of how things work at the hospital. And also, my department provided services for the patients in the ER, ICU, surgery, rehab, general psych. We did OBGYN, we did pediatrics, and we did the nursery. So I'm familiar with the departments working together to improve patient care. My experience includes I had approximately 25 employees worked under me, which I had to do the staffing for all. Some of them were 24/7, and also I had to be in charge of their supplies in their areas. I'm familiar with budgets, both departmental-wise and hospital-wide. Important to do QA, QC every day because that's what you have to meet to be approved by the Joint Commission Accreditation. I was familiar with construction when they did the addition, $20 million expansion. I had a wing that added the MRI and nuclear med and everything. Purchased equipment for the MRI, CT we did, and ultrasound. I covered it from the sales to the service to looking at the specs. Also working on the maintenance contracts that we had to look at in providing service for this equipment. IMC presently has over 400 full-time employees working there. And if you add in the part-time and the contract people that work there, you're up to about 700 people. So I would probably say, besides the school board, this might be the second largest employer that we have in this parish. So it's very important to take care of this facility and do the right things to make it continue to grow.
You can wrap it up, Mr. Verret, please.
That's my 3 minutes, all right. There was a question on ethics. I've spoken to Mr. Rob Vines, I think, and he spoke to Mr. Shealy about the ethics problem. My son working in the radiology department and me being on the board. And I also spoke to Tricia Barker with the ethics board, and there is no issue or concern with them because I could recuse myself in any of those votes, and I'm just one vote amongst many to be able to vote on that thing. So thank you for the opportunity to address the council. It allows you information needed to make an informed decision about me. Thank you for your time. I appreciate the job you do, and I'd appreciate your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Verret.
Thank you.
Next, we have Mr. Mike Mayo.
Good evening. My name is Mike Mayu. I'm applying for the open seat also on the IMC board. I live at 34 Oak Place in District 6 in Iberia Parish. I've lived this address for the last 15 years. I was born and raised in New Iberia. My father had the Purina feed store on Iberia Street. I graduated from Catholic High and then USL. And worked in several states outside of Louisiana for about 20 years. I worked for Humana, for Thomason Hospital in El Paso County Hospital District, Brackenridge Hospital, which is owned by the city of Austin, Denver General, which is owned by the city and county of Denver. After being away for about 20 years, in 1993, I came back to New Iberia. I had the opportunity to return as the Chief Financial Officer at Dauterive Hospital here in New Iberia. I worked there for 13 years, retired in 2005. That lasted about 6 months, and then I went back to work as the Chief Financial Officer at Tesh Regional Medical Center in Morgan City, and commuted from Morgan City to New Iberia every day for about 10 years. As a volunteer, I'm the past president treasurer of the Bayou Girl Scout Council. I'm the past president of the SNAP Shelter for Abused and Battered Persons. I'm the past president of the Iberia Kiwanis Club Foundation. I'm the past president and treasurer of the Catholic High Panther Club. I was in the first class of Leadership Iberia. Currently, I work for the Public Defender's Office as a volunteer. I had a mentor who instilled in me the idea that to whom much is given, much is expected, and there is still much expected from me. I believe that I have the hospital financial experience and the Iberia Parish volunteer experience to serve on the IMC board, and I would appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayo. Next, we have Mr. Jesse Dupree.
Good evening. My name is Jesse Dupuy. I'm also applying for the hospital board. I've been living in this parish in excess of 50 years. I am an insurance and risk manager by occupation that specializes not only in oil and gas but also healthcare. Each day, part of my job is dealing with administrators and CFOs and addressing risk that are faced in healthcare settings. And I think the best way for me to describe what makes me qualified is to tell you that in 2002, this council approved me to serve on the hospital board. And for the next 12 years, we began to make improvements at the hospital. When I first arrived, the year prior to arriving on the board, the hospital was under a corporate compliance order. And what that means is that it was cited by Joint Commission and Medicare for irregular accounting practices. Part of those practices had nothing to do with intentional acts. It had everything to do with the lack of training. And most of you weren't on this council back in the day to understand just how poorly the hospital was functioning at the time. At the time, the hospital had only about 35% of the market share. The rest of it was at Dotrieve. And I knew coming in that the only way that we were going to make a difference and the only way that IMC was going to survive is if we made changes in a couple different areas. Number one, the profitability of the hospital was poor. We were losing money. This council was not necessarily giving the hospital money, but in essence, the hospital could have used funding at the time. In addition, we had a culture that was not acceptable to great patient care. We had an aging facility. We had inadequate technology to provide good patient care. And so the way that we addressed that was first to address the culture within the organization. And the way that you address culture is with data. Where I come from, data means everything. And the way that we used the data was to approach our employees at the hospital to show them that the patients themselves were telling us that we weren't doing a good job. We instituted a patient satisfaction survey. And from those surveys, the patients told us what they thought of the health care that we were giving to them. And through those initiatives and through those changes and appealing to our employees, we began making positive changes within the organization. The positive changes increased patient volume, and with increased patient volumes, we took the profits from the organization and plowed them right back into the hospital, improved the hospital's physical plant, improved the technology that the hospital was caring for the patients with, and also began building out space for new doctors. In addition to the patient satisfaction survey, we began wanting to know what our doctors thought about the hospital. And in essence, what we found out was that we were underserving our doctors. Our doctors, we were not the hospital of choice for our doctors. In the same way we were not the hospital of choice for our patients, we were viewed as basically the charity hospital of Iberia Parish. And in order for us to change that attitude in the community, we had to also change it within our employee structure and within the physician structure. By understanding what the doctors wanted from us to be able to provide great patient care, we began to understand what we needed to do. We took an MOB, a medical office building that was only 40% filled to 100% occupied, and built out the space across the street. So the hospital has great challenges. It has $25 million in bonds that are issued. Right now we're struggling trying to figure out what we're going to do with this Riviera bond and how we're going to pay for it. But if the hospital fails because of a lack of leadership and a lack of direction, you will be in a bigger financial crisis, not just the hospital, but the entire parish. So I'd like for you to consider me for serving on the hospital board.
Thank you, Mr. Dupuy.
Thank you.
Next, we have Brock Romero.
Good evening, Council. I'm here tonight for the same position, to sit on the board of Iberia Medical Center. Currently, I am 41 years old. I'm definitely the youngest one of the other guys. I'm from Louisville. I've lived all my life in Louisville. 3 kids. Wife teaches in Louisville. 3 kids attend public school in Louisville. Any of you guys who question whether or not I'm going to stay in Louisville or stay in Iberia Parish, I am. I currently own and operate the Rural Health Clinic of Louisville, which was developed by my father. My father is Dr. James R. Romero, who practiced medicine since 1960. So he's been there a while. From my educational background, I'm a 1994 graduate of Catholic High School. Upon graduation, I attended USL, where I finished in nursing with my Bachelor of Science degree in nursing. Upon graduation, I got recruited by a number of different facilities, including that of IMC. My choice was to actively work at IMC. I was employed in the intensive care unit. Floated around the hospital from med-surg to post-anesthesia care unit to emergency department. So from a hospital standpoint, you know, I've been there and I've worked in the trenches of, you know, patient care. Within eight years ago, I decided that I was going to go back and advance my profession as an advanced practice registered nurse, family nurse practitioner. Within that time, my father was deciding that he was going to retire, and Loreauville was going to be left without a provider. So I picked up the reins and went back to school and got my master's degree in, you know, advanced practice nursing, family nurse practitioner, and I finished and went back, you know, and worked there and took over the clinic, and I currently own and operate that clinic now. From a business perspective, I definitely know the ins and outs of the billing component, Medicare, Medicaid, health insurance guidelines, reform. It's taking place right now. From a healthcare provider standpoint, I see patients on a daily basis. I hear needs of the patients. I hear needs of the family members. And one of my main concerns is, and in reaching out to each and every one of you guys, my main concern is, why are we losing patients to Lafayette? And what do we need to do from a hospital-based standpoint to try to bring our patients back to Iberia Medical Center? Today, my profession consists of the largest workforce in healthcare and represents an important and unique perspective in healthcare-related matters, especially in giving voice to the patient and family issues and their concerns. We serve at the center of patient experience, having the most contact with patients and their families.
You can wrap it up, Mr. Romero.
We also have in-depth knowledge of healthcare delivery, the ability to prioritize problems, and credibility among other healthcare professionals. As a family nurse practitioner, my focus is the community as a whole. Health and prevention, quality and safety in healthcare delivery, and on measuring healthcare outcomes. In my professional opinion, my focus brings to the board of Iberia Medical Center and to the Iberia Parish Council the voice of the patient, which should be, I think, the cornerstone of any healthcare organization. Thank you, and I consider you, hope that you can vote for me.
Thank you, Mr. Romero. Thank you. That's all the participation cards that I have. Is there anybody else who wanted to speak that hadn't filled out a card yet? All right, I need a motion to close public hearing. Moved by Mr. Gosselaar, second by Mr. Gosselaar. Roll call. That motion carries. Move on to reports, finance and administrative action. There's none. Reports, parish, other governmental agencies, the administration to provide monthly status reports on all grant projects, all in accordance with resolution number 2012-217 that was provided in our packets. Building permit report for the month of March 2017 that was also provided in our packets. Public Works reports, the Public Works Department report for closed work orders dated March 13th through the 17th, 20th through the 24th, and 27th through the 31st was all provided to us in our package or through email. Public Works Department report for open requests by district through March 21st, 2017 was also provided in our packets or via email. Special business, a public meeting to be held on May 24, 2017 to adopt an ordinance authorizing the levy of various millages for the year 2017. And Next, executive session pursuant to Louisiana Revised Statute 4217-2 regarding litigation entitled to Safe Haven Mobile Home Park LLC versus the Iberia Parish Government, docket number 00128-588. I need a motion to go into executive session.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Tommy Landry, seconded by Mr. Brian Napier. Roll call. That motion carries. We're now going into executive session. If I can ask everyone to step out.
Council is fixing to return to regular session. The council went into executive session for the purpose of discussing a proposed settlement. Discussion took place. No action has been taken. Any action with respect to that particular settlement proposal will take place in open meeting.
This time I need a motion to close executive session and go back into regular
so
session.
move.
Moved by Mr. Gonsalas, second by Mr. Francis. Roll call. That motion carries. Do I have a motion on the floor from executive session?
Make a motion.
Mr. Landry?
I'd like to make a motion to accept the offer of the March 14, 2017 preliminary plat approval dated March 10, 2017, and authorize our attorney, Dean Roddy, to enter into an agreement.
All right, so the motion on the floor is to accept the settlement offer of Safe Haven Mobile Home Park LLC dated March 14, 2017, which attached a new plat dated March 10, 2017, and to grant preliminary approval to that plat and to authorize Mr. Watney to enter into that settlement agreement.
Second.
Do I have a second? I have a second by Mr. Napier. Any discussion? Mr. Olivier?
I just want to go on public record that I just really think this trailer park is the wrong fit for this area in this community. In my opinion, it's still a public safety issue with traffic. It's still an issue with drainage in that area. And I'm not satisfied that it's going to improve. This is going to improve any of these items. It's going to be a problem from now on once this thing's approved. And I think we're going to pay for it in the long run. Thank you.
Mr. Watney?
Yes, I think we also would be diligent to authorize someone to sign that agreement on behalf of parish government.
Mr. Landry, you would amend your motion, and who would you?
We could authorize the parish president
To sign what agreement?
settlement agreement.
I think you might be the chairman of the council to sign that, since they voted on it.
That's fine. So you're also going to authorize the chairman of the council to enter into, to sign the settlement agreement?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, and we're going to attach the letter as well as the plat, as well as the engineering studies, as well as the consent judgment between Safe Haven Mobile Home Parks and the Antoine Howard Dotrell Living Trust. Any other discussion? Roll call. That motion carries. All right, next we go to council member announcements. Are there any council member announcements? Mr. Gonsalas?
Just let the public know that Representative Higgins will be in the Steamboat Pavilion tomorrow at 6 for a town hall meeting. If anyone's interested in attending and discussing the issues with Mr. Higgins, he'll be there at 6 o'clock tomorrow.
Parish President announcements?
Just to let you know that we're having our Household Waste Day on Saturday, April 22nd, from 9 to 1 o'clock in the courthouse parking lot. Same thing we did last year.
Good.
That's it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. April 22nd.
Next, we move on to Oh,
Larry,
Larry.
just like to make a comment. I've been getting a lot of calls about tires, and y'all are only taking 5 tires, correct?
Per person.
Per person,
Right.
outside, who
Right.
lives, okay.
Can I have a follow-up comment on that, please?
Yes,
We
Mr.
don't
Higgins.
mean no aircraft tires and tractor
No,
tires.
I'm talking about automobile tires.
Do me one
Larry?
favor. I have some
What's the
residents, Larry,
9 o'clock to 1, 9 a.m. to 1
I have some
p.m.
residents in my area is willing to actually pay a disposal fee if you can take those tires. You think it might be possible you can check in?
Well, they may be able to give them to the company that the parish deals with. We can get with that. We can talk offsite.
Okay, all right.
Moving on to consent agenda items for public hearing and adoption. Are there any items on the consent agenda that anybody wants removed?
Yes, I'd like to remove summary number 58 on the consent agenda.
All right. Summary number 58 is removed from the consent agenda. Any other items need to be removed?
Yeah, I need to remove the February 22nd approval of minutes from the consent agenda item due to some changes in the language.
All right, so any other items that are being requested be removed from the consent agenda item? So what's left is we will deal with the approving the minutes of February 8th, 2017, and March 8th, 2017 minutes, a resolution of condolences to the family of Michael Duncan, the brother of former parish councilman Roger Duncan, who passed away. Have a motion by
Second.
Mr. Paul Landry, a second by Mr. Tommy Landry. Roll call. Though that motion carries, we'll go to the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of February 22nd, 2017. Do I have a motion? Moved by Mr. Landry. Paul, second by Mr. Tommy Landry. We're on the minutes of February 22nd,
Yeah, move.
2017. Do you have a,
A motion to table.
all right, so we'll have a substitute motion to
To
table it
table.
by Mr. Gonsalas, seconded by Mr. Paul Landry. Any discussion? Roll call. Next, we'll move on to summary number 58, introduced by Marty Trahan, District 13, a resolution expressing support for House Bill number 259, which is a proposed constitutional amendment authorizing levy districts created after January 1st, 2006, to levy an annual property tax not to exceed 5 mills in their respective jurisdictions. Do I have a motion?
Move.
Moved by Mr. Trahan,
Second?
second by Mr. Tommy Landry.
Okay.
Any discussion?
The motion is
Delete.
to delete.
Yes.
So your motion
Is to delete.
is to, all right, so I have a motion to delete by Mr. Trahan. Is that good with your second, Mr. Landry?
That's me.
Any discussion on the motion
Yes.
to delete, Mr. Trahan?
I talked to Ray and him asked me to put this on, the levy is part of my district, where the levy's gonna go, to give them a fair chance to get our support. It's a state-appointed board, and they needed funding. They're trying to get funding wherever they can. But talking to the legislatures, this bill has some trouble getting out of committee. So he asked that I'll pull it until further notice and
So we may be considering it later,
later, but I'm asking for a motion to delete.
at this time.
At
Any
this
other
time.
discussion? Roll call. This is a motion to delete that you're voting on. That motion carries. Ordinances introduced for public hearing and adoption, summary number 4821, an ordinance authorizing the abandonment of the unconstructed road right-of-way located off Jacqueline Drive South between Block 2, Lot 7B and Lot 7A in Jacqueline Estates 2, District 7. All is approved by the Berry Parish Regional Planning Commission. Do I have a motion?
Move.
Moved by Mr. Paul Landry.
Second.
Second by Mr. Marty Trahan. Any discussion? Roll call. Resolutions introduced for public hearing and adoption. Summary number 59, introduced by our parish president, a resolution granting substantial completion to the Horton Road Bridge Replacement Project in Lydia. All is approved by Eleanor Construction Company, Inc., and recommended by the project engineer Sellers and Associates.
Move.
Moved by Mr. Eugene Olivier.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Marty Traha. Any discussion? Roll call. That motion carries. Summary number 60, introduced by the parish president, a resolution granting substantial completion to the new storage building project at the Iberia Parish Courthouse. All is completed by Southern Constructors, LLC, and recommended by project architect, Architects Design Studio. Do I have a motion?
Move.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Lloyd Brown, seconded by Mr. Ricky Gonsalas. Any discussion?
Unanimous second.
I have one question. There was quite a long punch list that was attached to that thing. Has all of that been completed?
Yes, everything is good.
Great.
Actually, we have one little panel that need to go on an electrical, that little part at the top, but that's, gonna take care of it, that's not a big deal.
Call for unanimous second. Roll call.
It's actually a little plate that goes on your.
Mr. Brown?
Larry, when is the ribbon cut?
I think it's
I mean,
22nd, maybe? 22nd. Wait a minute. Hold on one second. I'll give it to you in a minute. Let me look at my calendar.
Summary number 61, introduced by the clerk of the council, a resolution authorizing travel expenses for blank members of the Iberia Parish Council to attend Police Jury Association's annual legislative day to be held in Baton Rouge, Louisiana on May 3rd, 2017, all at an approximate cost of $161.11. Do I have a
Move.
motion?
Move.
I have a motion by Mr. Olivier.
Second.
I have a second by Mr. Tommy Pollard. Any discussion?
Like a substitute motion?
Yes, Mr. Landry?
Substitute motion to delete.
All right, I have a motion to
second.
delete by Mr. Paul Landry, a second by Mr. Gonsalas. We'll vote first on the motion, the substitute motion. Roll call. Discussion?
Well, yeah, I'm just, y'all don't wanna go?
Yes, sir. We want you to drive us and pay the
I
guys to go.
have done that before.
Yeah, that's our plans.
So it's delete,
gonna
you
go.
don't want nobody to go?
No,
We're
just-
gonna go, we're just gonna pay it all.
Oh, you just don't wanna pay it? Oh, okay, all right. I didn't know, y'all caught me on guard.
Any other discussions? Roll call. We're voting on the deletion. That motion carries. Summary number 62, introduced by the clerk of the council, a resolution appointing one member to the Iberia Parish Hospital Service District Number 1 for the remainder of a 4-year term to fill a vacancy created by the resignation of Dr. Guy Fewer, whose term expires November 12, 2020. Applications of interest on file are from A, Ron Alamo, B, Jesse Dupree, C, Michael Mayo, D, Brock Romero, and E, Barry Barrett. I'd like to announce that Mr. Ron Alamo has removed his name, so please do not cast a vote for Mr. Alamo, and make sure you use your ballots with your district number on it.
I can do that.
District 1, Brock Romero. District 2, Brock Romero. District 3, Mike Mayo. District 4, Brock Romero. District 5, Jesse Dupree. District 6, Mike Mayo. District 7, Jesse Dupree. District 8, Brock Romero. District 9, Brock Romero. District 10, Brock Romero. District 11, Jesse Dupree. District 12, Brock Romero. District 13, Barry Verrett. District 14, Jesse Dupree. All right, it's Mr. Dupree 4, Mr. Mayo 2, Mr. Romero 7, Mr. Verrett 1. I need you to recast your votes, please.
Mr. Broussard.
Yes, sir.
Can we take a break?
Yes, sir.
Can we take a break?
5-minute recess?
Yes, sir, please.
We'll go on recess for 5 minutes. All right, we're going to go back into session, and time is 7:58. And you can re-vote on everybody, so if you can recast your vote.
Brian, don't pull it, just give it. I gotta put it on anyways.
All right, District 1, Brock Romero. District 2, Brock Romero. District 3, Brock Romero. District 4, Brock Romero. District 5, Jesse Dupree. District 6, Jesse Dupree. District 7, Jesse Dupree. District 8, Brock Romero. District 9, Brock Romero. District 10, Brock Romero. District 11, Jesse Dupree. District 12, Brock Romero. District 13, Brock Romero. District 14, Jesse Dupree.
Brock Romero.
All right, so that gives Mr. Dupree 5, Mr. Romero 9. Congratulations, Mr. Brock Romero. You are the new member of the hospital district. Thank you for your service, and I thank everybody for submitting themselves and being willing to volunteer to serve on the board.
Thank you, Council. I appreciate it.
Thank you. All right, ordinance to be introduced for publication. There are none. I need a motion for an adjournment.
Wait a minute, question.
Yes.
Question. Ribbon cutting is on the 20th. Thank you.
Oh, we're over here. Second.
I need a motion to adjourn. Moved by Mr. Paul Landry, second by Mr. Warren Goshasan. Oh, no.